Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to a live League of Non-Aligned podcasts. We're a little short on people today. It's because some folks are slacking off, but we are here, and hopefully people can hear us. I think everyone's got the video going but me, so if you can't hear us, let me know. But I think I've got everything set up. I think we're okay. But I'm Scott. I'm with Gray 17 Podcast, and we are here to talk about the B5 animated movie. And I will stop talking and introduce those around us. So we're just going to go around the horn here and introduce folks. And guys, go ahead and plug your stuff and say who you are and all that good stuff. And I'll toss over to Jeff first.
Thanks, Scott. My name's Jeff Aiken. I'm with the Babylon 5 for the First Time podcast. It's not a Star Trek podcast. You can catch us at babylon5first.com. It's the number 5 and the word first. Hey, Mega, why don't you go next?
All right. Thank you. I'm Mega Reacts. I am everywhere. You can find me on Twitter, Mega Reacts, YouTube, Mega Reacts, Patreon, Mega Reacts, Rumble, Mega Reacts, Odyssey, Mega Reacts. I'm all over the place.
I know a few of those. Hey, Ryan, how about you talk?
So,
sorry, I didn't introduce you. My apologies.
How could you? I was too thrown off that he was on Rumble, which is a site for certain types of people. So I am from Yum Yum Podcast, the only Australian Babylon 5 podcast in all of existence, and we're going to be the only one. No one else is brave enough to step up. But my wife and I, we are rewatching Babylon 5, going through it episode by episode. We're nearing season 4 right now, and we just like talking about science fiction television. We'll soon be coming out with our discussions on space, above and beyond, so keep an eye out for that as well.
I love space, above and beyond. Let's go to Jessi next.
Hey, I'm Jessi. I'm from Gray 17, a Babylon 5 podcast. I am one of the noobs, or as I prefer to call myself, a new one.
Thank you, by the way. Thank you. You're not a child. You're a new
right.
one. We are new ones.
Jessi, somebody put on the comments last week on our YouTube, and I said I was going to steal it, but I haven't told you guys yet. They want to call you the baby lawns.
I like the new ones.
A little strange. I'm 41 years old, so it is what it is. But no, just happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Kevin.
I am Kevin. I'm also from the Gray 17 podcast, and I'm one of the first ones on there. Don't know the show quite as well as two of the other ones, but I keep up pretty good.
I love how you said two. I love how you said two of the other ones and not. Oh, hold on here. My video just went wonky because I minimized the screen. Because of course I did. We'll fix that real quick. There we go. We're back. Okay.
You didn't say which two, Scott. Just going to leave that floating out there.
Yeah,
it's
not him.
Mike flat out says he doesn't know the show as well. But don't touch the Zoom, Scott, because when you touch the Zoom, the video goes away. Got it. Understood. I'm still learning this thing. I'm not like Jeff. I can't figure out OBS all the way. So we've got a couple newbies here, or whatever you want to call yourselves, new to the show. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about the B5 animated movie, but in a way that these guys won't potentially get spoiled. So in the chat and everything else, what I would love to hear from you all is what you're excited about or what your thoughts are on it, but keep the spoilers away from the chat right now. What will happen is after we go through our folks who haven't watched through the whole show, which would be Jeff, Mega, and Jessi, we'll then kick them off, and we'll talk more spoiler stuff. So keep the spoilers at bay. The one cool thing I saw already, guys, is I love this one from Jacob, all my favorite YouTubers in one place. So for those who didn't show up tonight, I guess you're not his favorite, so sorry. But let's go ahead and go around the horn here, and I want to hear from the new folks first. So I ended with Kevin and Jessi, so I'll start with Jessi first. Jessi, when you found out from me that there's going to be a animated movie after 18 years since the last thing we had from Babylon 5, which you don't even know what that is because I haven't told you what the last thing was. What was your thoughts on that?
How cool. And then my next thought was how sucky, because I'm not going to be able to watch it for another 2.5 years. So there's several of us new ones in the podcast, and everybody's like, oh, I'm super excited. And I'm like, I'm not, because we're not going to watch it. So Yeah, I thought, but the concept of like a cartoon, I think that's super cool. And I definitely look forward to seeing it in like 2027.
We'll be done with our show by 2024. You'll be fine.
She's not salty about it at all.
No, she's not.
I'm not mad at all.
I want to point out to the audience, just so I don't sound like too much of a dick. Kevin, Blake, Mike, and I are going to watch the movie. And if it's clear of any major spoilers from where our guys are, which they're just starting season 3, then we'll let them watch it. It will be fine. It'll be fine.
Not going to happen.
Judging by the press release, which we'll talk about later, I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll try. Let's go to Megan next. Your thoughts. Where are you? Are you in season 4 now?
I'm in season 4. I'm about 8 or 9 episodes in, maybe. I can't quite remember. I'm right there with Jessi, though. I'm excited there is going to be a Babylon 5 animated movie. That's amazing. But I'm also a little sad because it'll probably be a year before I get to watch it. So I'm happy but sad. I'm happy sad. Like a Cure song. Happy sad.
Well, we usually call Kevin Eeyore. So if you want to be Eeyore along with Kevin, that's fine. You can be happy sad.
I'll be happy sad.
Jeff, what do you got?
Well, on Friday, I'll be on Love with Babylon 5. Just grabbing that Cure reference and running with it, right? No, I mean, Jessi said it best, right? We can't watch this thing for so long. We're just a little bit into season 3. We just watched Voices of Authority, so we got a long time, I mean, yeah, 2024, but it's a year away. But I'll tell you what I do love. I love 2 things. Just like Jessi said, that it's animated. Because it's going to be beautiful. I think it's going to have there's so much more they can do. If this is successful, right, the doors that are going to open because it's animated are huge. But I think, we're talking a lot about calling us the new ones, which, I mean, I'm not on Grey 17, but I'm going to advocate for you. It should be the new ones. It's much, yeah, I won't go off on newbies. But anyway, new ones. What's cool is Brent and I discovered this show a year ago. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary as a podcast, and it's only been a year since we've been watching this. And we thought we were going to be some of the last ones, right? Like, how long are the legs on a sci-fi show? You know what I mean? That doesn't have a lot more coming out on it. But what's cool, we're not the last ones. We're the new ones. And now because of this, there can be next ones. And I think that's really exciting.
And Ryan from Yum Yum, what do you got?
I mean, just to Jeff's point too, I remember when we started our podcast, where Rewatch, and at that time there was only like 1 or 2 new B5 podcasts. There was a couple of years when there was kind of like a drought, but with like the remaster that came out and the reboot news that we've talked about previously, and now this project, it's kind of very exhilarating to see people talking about the series again and wanting to check it out. So for me, the animated movie, I'm more excited about its swelling interest in the show again and for people to want to talk about it. My biggest takeaway is I would be really happy if it's good, of course, but not only because I love B5, but I want a really good animated Western animated sci-fi thing. I think Western animation doesn't really embrace sci-fi the best without it just being a comedy as well. Like, I love Final Space and I like Lower Decks, but they're still just like comedy shows that also are sci-fi, and they kind of bleed together in that way. So I'm looking forward to just having like a cool sci-fi animated project in the works.
Kevin.
What's great about this show is that it stayed so relevant all these years later, and it's nice to have some new content to be able to talk about and go through and see some actors that we love who are still around and working and still love Babylon 5 all these years later. And while it's sad that we don't have quite a few of them still around, we will still have the characters in some iteration that we can be excited about, in this hopefully wonderfully put together project that I have a lot of trust in JMS that he'll do a great job with. And I think it's great that Warner came to him and said, hey, let's do an animated feature, and we'll have to see how they're going to release it, but it should be very interesting to, especially once we see it and we know what point anyone can watch it. It may be that you be able to watch it sometime in the fourth season? Maybe not, but we'll definitely let you guys know as soon as you can. But I'm hopeful that it won't be fall 2024 before Jeff and Jessi and Mega can see it.
You know what we're gonna hear? Oh, we'll talk about that Beyond the Rim.
Beyond
I'm
this.
so tired of hearing that.
You've still got a year and a
Jessi?
half.
Jessi, we'll have to talk about that Beyond the Rim, okay? Your opinions on that? We're going to have to talk about that after you're gone.
Oh my goodness! Don't give me any more trouble than I already am.
Oh, you do that pretty well on your own, bud.
I do. Yeah.
No, Animated B5 is interesting too because a lot of the remaining cast from this show have gone on to do voice acting. So you also have that benefit of the remaining cast that are in it. Most of them are celebrated voice actors. Obviously, Grey 17, you guys talked to Claudia Christian, and she's had a thriving career as a voice actress, whether in video games or animated shows. Like she's really great in Blood of Zeus. So you also get that benefit too of like with that of not only JMS has worked in animation before. I mean, that's where he got his start in a lot of ways in TV, but also a lot of these actors nowadays have had a career in that field as well. It's not just we got the cast back together to do voice acting, and he is James Doohan doing all of the voices of the background characters, and Shatner's just doing his thing. Which is fun.
To pick up that feat. I mean, if you remember Picard's season 1 where they tried to de-age.
I try to forget.
That did not go well, right? But I mean, the magic of animation is that as long as you've still got the voice, and I think about that. Claudia Christian, Bruce Boxleitner. I mean, oh my God, these are powerhouse voices.
Yep.
And so I mean, gosh, we could have 15, 20 more years of content out of these people.
Yeah.
Same thing with Peter Jurassic. I mean, Jursic, excuse me. He does a fantastic job with voice acting too when he gets the work. And so I think it'll be great to hear. I'm going to miss the dynamic with Andreas Katsoulis, but hopefully they've picked their voice actors carefully for the ones that are being recast, and they'll be able to develop some sort of dynamic. But I think it would be sad if we didn't see a scene or two with Londo and Jakar again.
Well, and to that point, JMS tweeted out that before he even started working on the script, he got a hold of all the surviving actors, and said, "Hey, the other characters are going to be in this. Are you all okay with having somebody voice the ones we've lost?" And he said if anyone had said no, they wouldn't have done it. And so everyone said yes, which I think is great. There's been some back and forth with JMS over the years. Back in the early 2000s, he said he would never recast. He would never do that. But over the past year or two, when he's been talking reboot, he's been talking about, well, these new actors can come in and make these characters their own too. Of course, this animated one's going to be a little different because it's not going to be a reboot. These are the same Jakar, Veer, if we have Veer, Lanier, and so forth and so on, that we've had before. So I'll definitely be interested. I think to what you guys have said, I have faith in what GMS is doing. For me, I was just excited to find out it was a freaking movie. I've been on his Patreon for a while. I've known this is coming. I've known that there was a secret project since October of 21. And with that, he never said what it was. He just said, hey, we got a whole group of people back together. Actually, Claudia Christian leaked the photo without she wasn't supposed to. She didn't say what the photo was, but she showed that all of them got back together for something.
Yeah.
And my assumption,
Claudia.
Yeah, thanks, Claudia. And my assumption Claudia. Was, and right to what Movie Science Review said in our chat, I figured it was going to be like the Doctor Who Big Finish audiobooks. I figured that's what it was going to be. They all got together and they did an audio drama. So when they announced that it was actually a full-blown feature movie directed by a guy who does it, by Warner Animation, who, if you watch the DC stuff, they know what they're doing. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. So in our chat real quick, let's see what folks are saying. And so David says, could be like Babylon Park. No, I don't think so. I will actually, I don't have it pulled up, so I can't. But
I wish it was like Babylon Park.
No,
that would
I
have
don't.
been an amazing
I
thing.
do
Yeah,
not. No,
that's a real thing, by the way. That's not just a little jokey thing. That's a weird little animated project that existed back in the day. It's very odd.
Pat Tallman was on it.
Yes, people were in it. But just to answer some of the questions too. So from my understanding, it's done. The movie's
Yes.
done. It's
in the can.
completed. It's fully in the can. And the reason that we haven't been told about it fully until this moment is JMS is being very professional, being like, I will tell everyone when it is officially going to come out, because in the past we've been told, oh, a movie's going to happen or this is going to happen, and the fans get all excited and then it all falls through and nothing happens. So instead of that, this time he's going through all the steps like he does with the reboot as well. It's like, well, here's the reasons, all of these reasons why the reboot isn't happening right now. And everyone rolled their eyes, and now look where we are with the writer's strike and where the Warner Brothers is at. And we're all just like, oh yeah, no, JMS was speaking truth about that, huh?
Yep.
So from my understanding, what is it coming out summertime for you guys in the US?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing. It's going to be midsummer. So what JMS said
soon.
today was that we can expect a trailer mid-June, and that it'll be coming out the summertime. So with that, I think that everyone's waving at somebody. Somebody's leaving. I don't have the chat open.
It's me.
Okay.
I gotta go.
Say bye, Jessi.
Bye, guys. Thanks for having me.
Bye, Jessi.
Take care, Jess.
Bye.
Take care.
I got the YouTube
Okay.
chat open, so I don't have the Zoom
See ya,
chat open.
Jessi. All right, now she's gone. We can talk beyond the rim about her. No.
Well, no, but so
I'm
I'm
kidding.
going to guess it comes out around San Diego Comic-Con, because originally, and somebody in the chat said that as well too. Jacob says, I bet the trailer drops San Diego Comic-Con. No, it's going to drop before then. It's going to drop mid-June. That's what JMS has said as of today. But somebody else had said, now I've lost it in the stream of chat, that they were surprised that we got it before San Diego. And that's right. I mean, originally, this thing was supposed to be announced at San Diego Comic-Con. But I think what happened, to Ryan's point, we've got the writer's strike. Warner's is trying to push stuff forward. I also do believe, and you can call me naive, but I still think the reboot is happening. And this is another trial balloon to see if people are going to pay for this stuff and watch this stuff. And so they want to get this out quickly. So if they do decide to greenlight the reboot, they can say, hey, look, we've got proof here that people are actually going to watch the damn thing, so we can go ahead and do it. So
I'll tell you, Scott, Brent and I mean, just come full out. I understand somebody's put quite a bit of stuff on this on Twitter and even on YouTube, but Brent and I were actually hired by Viacom CBS to tank the reboot.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, so it's not going to happen. This movie will be the last thing you ever see.
You and Robert Meyer Burnett on Star Trek, you're both shills
Right,
and
yeah.
tanks. Yeah, that's what you're
Yeah,
doing.
that's us, totally, 100%. I mean, that's my full-time job now. But no, I want to be really honest and share my thought on the reboot in the context of this movie. Is that reboot sounds great? It's really cool. To echo what Jessi said, wait a couple years, for goodness sake. Like, let us finish. But that said, how cool would it be if we just got a series of movies, these animated movies? I mean, let's do that for 5 years, you know, or whatever. Let's do that. That'd be so cool.
And I don't know how much you guys have deep dived, Jeff. I'm assuming not much, but I mentioned it's been 18 years since the last B5 property we got. And that was in the early 2000s. We had The Lost Tales. We'll get into it when we get into it. But the original plan for The Lost Tales was to be an anthology series, and it was going to come out regularly. The first one's tanked, and so that was the end of it. But I would love to see that we have some kind of continual media coming out. And that's also, we got some stuff here in the chat still I'll pull up. So David says, I hear the budget is not as much as an animated Batman movie. We don't know. Everything, when you say I hear, that's 100% rumor, because no one knows. The only thing that we know for sure is that Warner Animation's doing it. It's already done. They've recorded the commentary track. We're going to get a trailer. It's coming out this summer. Everything else is all conjecture and
They
rumor.
gave us a cast list of people.
Exactly.
They gave us who is a director who has just directed a Batman and Superman 3D animated movie. So
yeah, I haven't watched it.
So no, I had a quick look at what it looks like, and so if it's similar in animation style to that, I would be fine with it. But I don't know. Again, that's me just looking at the director's previous work to be like, what does that look like? Okay, it looks like this. If Babylon 5 looked like that, I would be fine with that.
To that end, too, Catherine asked, does anyone know if this is going to be a network or streaming service? It definitely won't be a network. I don't think anything Warner Animated comes out on a network. But my assumption, and again, this is all rumor and assumption, I'm going to guess streaming service and physical media. I also think that I still have hope that we're going to get the remastered versions that are on streaming right now on Blu-ray or 4K, because we have never gotten any high quality discs. And if those of you who are
terrible.
watching
They're
B5,
so bad.
I don't agree. I don't agree. My discs are pretty high quality. I love those morphing menus. That's
Yeah,
high
okay,
quality right
fine.
there for you.
But-
you don't get that on streaming, by the way. You don't get to see Talia Winters morph into Kosh on streaming. You don't get that.
That's
fucking
true.
shit.
That sounds hot.
I forgot those
Right.
menus
That is-
existed.
True. They
can't-
existed. They're great.
I can't imagine that Warner wouldn't put these out in either 4K or Blu-ray because Babylon 5 fans would line up for those at this point. It's been so long since they released anything, and even the streaming, especially now that it's off of Max, no one wants to watch it with with ads if they can help it. So why not put it out on what they used to call home video, and that
What they
they'll
used to
make some
call-
money off of that.
Okay,
What's the
Grandpa.
problem? Yeah.
Because it's a dying medium.
Warner Home
in a
Video.
sad way.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. No one buys discs anymore. I have thousands of DVDs, but I haven't bought one in 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, it takes so much work now. I do reactions that pale in comparison to what Mega does, and we keep them behind a paywall because they're that bad. And interesting to see. But I had to switch to DVDs to do them, doing all the DRM stuff, and it's like, God, these wires and this stuff to make it all work. And also, I don't know what I'm doing, but yeah, they look terrible. They're a pain in the butt to work with. I have this little thing over here going the whole time. God, just let me hit play.
Yep.
It's the 21st century, for goodness sake.
But I will say, though, because I lived in the dark ages where B5 wasn't available on streaming, and there was that one moment where I think Verizon put out like that streaming service where you could get 5-minute snippets at a time, and they actually took the B5 episodes and cut them into 5-minute snippets. I want physical media for those times.
Yeah.
So a couple other things in the chat. We'll keep going here. So Eli says, theoretically, with animation nowadays, it's possible to act out the late actors' voices using AI. It's possible,
No,
but that's
thank
not
you.
what they're going to do. So we know.
Thank you.
I wouldn't like it either, but we know that they have hired voice actors. Some of them are like well-known voice actors to voice those characters that we have lost. And then, without spoiling anything for the folks who haven't watched it yet, there are some characters that we weren't expecting to be listed on the cast list. That's on the cast list. So, and we'll talk about that after Jeff and Mega leave. Let's
Can
see.
I ask Jeff and Mega some questions?
Please.
Since they're newbies.
Yes.
For you guys, you're both at interesting places in your watch throughs and as first timers. I mean, for you both, I mean, how does it feel to just have a series that was, when you both started, it was dead. Like, there's no more. That was it. Like, you had an end date in mind, to now out of the blue come back with like potential for more, because that doesn't happen very often, especially with a series like Babylon 5. Like, I imagine if, say, Jeff, you guys started your Stargate podcast, it would not be a surprise if Stargate ever came back, because that has like 15 million franchise pieces. But Babylon 5 was just, this is the show. They had a bunch of movies, and then it ended 18 years ago. So for both of you guys, what's that like as people who are enjoying the show, but also people who went into this being like, oh, I've heard about it and I'm just going to watch it?
All right. It's exciting, to be honest. I went into Babylon 5 knowing nothing about the show. It was actually Picard season 1 that drove me to Babylon 5 because I wanted decent sci-fi. So I had to go back 20, 30 years.
Yeah, and then you got Takashima in the pilot, and you're like, hey, I know her. She's in Star Trek Picard season 1.
Yeah,
She wears
yeah.
stupid sunglasses.
Right?
Yay.
That did kind of throw me off. But I went into it because I heard about it, and I used to see it on when I was watching Deep Space Nine, and I ain't watching Babylon 5. What's this shit? Deep Space Nine ripoff. Do not hang me, folks. I know that's not true. But I went into it, just let me see what this is all about. And I get into this world, and I find these characters I can relate to, and this writing that is unmatched. I mean, it is fantastic. And I did think there was an end to it. Like, there will be no more. And then I find out there's movies. And now there's an animated movie. And the world of Babylon 5 continues to expand. and that is an exciting premise. I am all in for whatever comes.
That's so strange to me. This happened to me for my Star Trek podcast, right? So my other podcast, the Starfleet Leadership Academy, and when I first started the planning for this podcast,
the award-winning podcast, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, I got you, buddy. I got you.
Thank you. It is recently recognized by the it was the 29th Annual Communicator Awards, an award of excellence. But Star Trek was done, right? There were, it's cool. Here's my body of work. I can do it. And then Discovery comes out, and then this comes out, and then this comes out, and then this comes out. I was on a podcast recently. They asked me, they said, what are you going to do when you get to the end of Star Trek? And I was like, well, I hope I can still eat solid food because it's going to take me 18 years to get to the end of all the Star Trek. Like, oh my gosh. So when Brent and I came into Babylon 5, part of our agreement, we're both busy guys. We have other podcasts, we have families, we have jobs, all this stuff. And part of the allure was we had 110 episodes. Right, we're going to do 110 of these, clear start, clear finish. And then we got into it, and then we learned, oh, there's movies. Oh, there's Crusade.
Yeah.
That's Crusade. Oh, there's autobiographies we need to read. Oh, there's comic books. Oh, there's novels. So even before this movie got announced, there's been this kind of like rolling hill of, oh my gosh, there's still so much more. And people want that, right? They're like, you've got to read this book. Oh my gosh, you got to read this thing, and you got to talk about this thing. And we're all about it. Like at this point, like if it's a Babylon 5 thing, like this Lost Tales, if that's out there somewhere, Brent, add a couple weeks to the old runtime, because now we're going to do Lost Tales also, apparently. So yeah, this isn't a new thing. It's exciting, it's fun, and I think it took us a little while past Infection and Soul Hunter, but after that, we were like,
sure,
yeah, we're into anything B5. Let's do this.
See, now, Jeff, what you guys got to figure out is how you're going to watch these, because without going into spoilers, most of what you're talking about, the extra media, Crusade, there's Legend of the Rangers, Lost Tales, yep. All of that actually happens before the series finale at the end of season 5. So if you're watching chronologically, you could, and we're actually having this discussion now with our guys, you could watch it all and then do the series finale. So just a thought.
But what about Hypernauts? No one's mentioning Hypernauts, which is another weird Babylon 5 connection. Hypernauts is funny. So Hypernauts was the animation company, the lovely CGI animation of Babylon 5. They wanted to stretch their muscles out some more, and so some of the producers and co went on to create a little kids show that you can watch all of it on YouTube called Hypernauts. And has some cast members from like the background actor cast members like that Drazi guy's in it, and some other actors are in it, and it's a kids show, and there's a puppet in it, and it's very strange, but it won like a prestigious award for children's television. But yeah, that's something that no one ever mentions with B5, but I always go, what about Hypernauts?
I'm in, because I have a 7-year-old daughter, and she is brutal to me, right? Like I told her one day, I'm like, yeah, she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch the next episode of Babylon 5, and she's like, what, Lamelon 5? And I'm like, oh my God, 7-year-old's old, and she's throwing shade at me. But she got into Star Trek through Prodigy, as a lot of kids did, I think. Also, on the Prodigy tip, just to give a shout out for Brent, he does a podcast with his son called Murph's Turf, where they watch Prodigy. It's really good.
That's cute.
But yeah, so maybe this is my way. And so she got into Star Trek through that. Maybe I'm pulling it up now. Maybe Hypernauts is my door to open up to get her.
Oh yeah. It's fascinating piece of work. It's written and created by Christy Marks, who's also the woman who created Gem and the Holograms, and she also wrote Grail. You remember Grail from Babylon 5? Remember the David Warner episode Grail?
That's a great episode.
Sure.
Come on, it's good.
Sure. It has the greatest guest actor in the history of I haven't finished the show, and I'll tell you, it's the greatest guest actor in the history of the show.
All right.
We're not talking about David Warner, right?
Oh yeah,
we already talked about the Brad Dourif episode, but all right. But I also just wanted to know from all of us, like, without getting too much into spoilers, but like with the B5 animated project, when you hear like, oh, there's a movie, and some of the cast are returning, and and we also just don't know who's returning as well, in terms of like minor characters or whatever else. Are there people that you're excited to see in animated form, or just again is there anything or anyone that you're like, oh man, I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing them again?
You want to go first?
Because it's been a while.
I gotta think about that one.
I don't know.
Personally, I would love to see. I'm personally a big Lita head, and I would just like to see Lita in animated form doing weird mind powers. Personally, also, I just personally give me some Kosh in a 3D cartoon form.
I want to see the Death Walker.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
I want to see her come back, and I want to see her get her ass kicked. It'd be great.
You know, when they first made the announcement, that was where my head went. I'm like, are they going to give us the Dilgar War? Like, that would be cool. And especially if it's got Deathwalker. She's so awesome.
I will say one thing.
Was so awesome.
Yeah. R.I.P. I will say one of the things that's been asked of GMS a lot, more so with the reboot, but I think it can be kind of dealt with here as well with the animated movie, is he's been asked, why don't you do a prequel? Why don't you do the Shadow War 1,000 years ago that we've heard about in season 2? Why don't you do what happens after B5, which we won't talk about? And his response is, people want B5. The studios want B5. You can't. Babylon 5 is the property, and you can't sell a Babylon 5 title without having Babylon 5. So that's why we don't get this stuff, is because the studios don't want it. The studios know that the property and what will sell is B5. And so that's why we're back in B5 for the animated movie. And we're probably going to be back at B5 for the reboot if it happens.
You
I
always
agree
trust
with you.
studio execs to make the right call.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying it's a smart move. But there's a... I mean,
That sounds like a man who made Crusade and the Legend of the Rangers and learned his lesson real hard.
I can't wait to talk the meta that is Crusade. And if you've read JMS's book, you know more about it than most. But along with that, too, I mean, you guys are mentioning the Dilgar War and everything else. There is a certain event in Babylon 5 timeline that I would love to see a show about, and there's books about it. But again, it's something that we just won't. I don't think we're ever going to see on media, unfortunately. Well,
Are
who
you
knows?
sure?
I mean, these animated movies.
I won't spoil it, but I'm just saying. Look,
I see what you're saying.
If this is a movie about Lou Welch and a day in the life of Lou Welch, the security guard, and him hanging out with Nagrath, the big praying mantis, I would be thrilled. And Jinxo's there.
You know what
Take
I
my
want?
money.
Walker
Take
Smith.
it.
I want a buddy cop movie with Lou Welch and Corwin. I want Welch and Corwin buddy cop movie. That's what I want.
Oh, yeah.
With
One's
Jeff-
a real stick in the mud. and
with
one's
Zach
loose
just
cannon,
watching and laughing the whole time.
Yeah. Oh God.
So let's see. Anything else that Mega or Jeff, you guys want to chat about before we go deep diving into spoiler land here? We got Mr. Tickle Trunk says Babylon 5 could dominate science fiction right now with viewership at record lows for Star Wars and Star Trek today. They're not record lows, but okay. It could be the next big IP. Star Trek Picard Season 3 just broke the top 10 of streaming, which is the first time Star Trek has ever broke the top 10 of streaming.
Did it
and
again.
it did twice.
Done it.
And oh, by the way, the one that just came out is actually a month delayed, so it's only up to episode 9. Wait until they do the ratings of episode 10. So it's I hear you, Tickle, but that's actually not what's happening with Trek.
Come on, Tickle. Star Trek peaked when they said yum yum. It's never
Oh,
been better than that
God.
moment right there.
That show's now
Downhill
canceled.
since then.
I will only rewatch 32 minutes of Star Trek Picard Season 3. And it is an amazing 32 minutes.
This is a spoiler, but it's a spoiler that's not really a spoiler, so I'm gonna throw it up there. Catherine says all I remember about Crusade is the X-Files episode, and that actually is a thing, and we'll leave it at that.
There's Smoking Man. As long as there's no one under the bed, then we're fine.
Babylon
Please.
5, Babylon 5 Underworld, starring Nagrath. There you go.
Yeah, great reference, Jeff, with the under the bed one. Memories come back. That was the first episode James Wong and Glenn Morgan wrote of X-Files when they came back from having done Space Above and Beyond. They had that show brutally murdered by Fox, and so they wrote a script for X-Files in which they let loose all of their anger. And that was the episode, one of the most depraved X-Files episodes of all time. They brought in Tucker Smallwood, who's a great character actor, he was one of the leads in Space Above and Beyond. He read the script and said, "Guys, are you okay? I know that they screwed you over on Space Above and Beyond, but are you guys okay?"
It's like, I can call somebody.
Yeah, we could call the Lord if you want.
Right.
Oh,
I thought you were going to say it's the first episode you ever saw, and I was like,
No.
and you watched more? What's wrong
Of
with
course.
you?
As a 4-year-old, I love gross shit.
Oh,
Right.
God's sakes.
But I just want to hear from all of us. I mean, this is from what I understand, 3D animated movie is a thing. I think some people, when they hear animated movie, they hope for 2D animation, but there's a 3D, it seems, and the new B5 image we saw is a modern CGI 3D. And a while back, one of the things that tipped me off that this could have been a movie was JMS was out there trying to source the original CGI and programs and files from the original run of Babylon 5. So they had like points of comparison. And so I'm excited on a level 2 to kind of see what is one of the biggest critiques of Babylon 5 from new viewers, especially from our 2 newbies or new ones here, which is the CGI doesn't age the best. It does get better as the show goes on, but I'm personally kind of keen to see Babylon 5 like spaceship stuff and space stuff and all of that with kind of that new modern CGI sheen, especially with how animation is. They're really doing it well at the moment. Like, I'm not a big Lower Decks head, but I love how they do spaceship battles with the mixture of like 2D and CG and 3D and all of that. So I think at least we can have a piece of B5 that I hope has good CG, and I can just move past people like Jeff and Co being like, the CG, huh? Stinky.
There's a reason somebody had to go first. No, but I do think I'm okay with 3D animation. I think that it's gotten a lot better. I think about shows like Tales of Arcadia and some of the DreamWorks stuff that's come out where like they just, first off, just in the Tales of Arcadia trilogy, Troll Hunters is peak television. I don't care how old you are. It's such a great story. But the animation's really good and it works, and that was what, 8-9 years ago? And so like with that in mind and a lot of the new stuff coming out, yeah, I think it's going to look really good. I'm excited.
Even that Tron show that they did a while back had really stylized and fun animation. The one that was like a little bit of a prequel to Tron Legacy. Yeah. That had a good look to it. That's from a few years back, but it shows you that you can have stylized animation in 3D and sci-fi settings.
It was Tron Uprising. That's what it was called.
Yeah. That was a good show.
And actually Tron was in it, unlike the second movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, Bruce.
Bruce Boxleitner was in Legacy. He just stood there and smiled.
Yeah, and then they made him into a... Well, never mind. I won't get into Tron Legacy. So, let's see. Chris had a question. I know it still came out, but what is the animation style? Basically, what we're saying here is it looks, based on that one still, that it is computer-generated a la 3D animation. But I will say it's very much realistic animation. It could have been something like very cartoony looking, and it's not. I mean, that picture, if you've looked at the still, and it's not a spoiler for those who haven't seen it, of the station is freaking beautiful. It is the best the station has looked ever. It just looks nice. And if the animation all looks like that, we're in for a ride. I asked in the chat if anyone had any questions for Mega and Jeff. Jeff, you got one that... Okay, I'll throw it out there because I asked. Ask Jeff what he thinks about the band Crownlands, and is it too close to the original Rush?
I don't know the band.
Oh, sorry, Robert. I thought that was like an inside
Jeff,
joke.
You're going to have to listen. You're going to have to listen to them, and you're going to have to address this in a very special episode of your podcast where it's all about Rush and this band and who's got the chops, okay?
And this time, try not to piss off your audiences with a live, okay?
No promises there.
Oh, man, we got hate mail on that one. I was like, I didn't do it.
It's not us. It's the other guys. We cross streams too often on the hate mail. It's good times.
Chuckle nuggets.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. Yep. I know these guys. Yep. No. Beautiful inspiration. Beautifully inspired by Rush, not Rush.
You don't want them to be Rush, though,
They're
right?
not.
Like you
They're
want them
not.
to be their own thing. That's the goal.
Yeah, but I'd say they're clearly in the vein, and that's a thing they're intentionally trying to do, and they do a really good job with it. But it's like Rush is Rush, and yes, the one.
Somebody pointed out in the comments that the Babylon 5 anime, it would have been great if they did this in an anime style so that finally B5 can be anime and we can see Londo's appendages in animated form doing what we need it to do. Yes.
His action figure is not anatomically correct, and I don't like it.
Yes. That's what I tweeted out when this news came out. Londo's dicks better get screen time, damn it. Let me see those tentacles. This is what animation was born for. Still use the whip crack sound effect when it whips back into him, but that's what I want to see. Londo penis action. Give me that.
So I think we're to a point here where we can probably dive into spoilers. Before that, I'll toss it over to Mega and Jeff one more time for anything you guys want to add. So Mega, take the floor.
Nothing really else to add. I think we covered most of what I can talk about, but I appreciate you having me on, and it was a great time. And whenever we all get done, we all need to sit down and play the Babylon 5 tabletop RPG.
Heck yes.
I will be ready on Roll20 when y'all are.
In fact, let me give you one of these for that, Mega.
Oh, yes.
Got the soundboard. Hey, and while you're answering these questions, Mega, just got a question from David. Babylon 5 had some funny moments. Do you think they would transfer over into the animation or lose something in the process?
I think it'll transfer over. And animation is pretty good with comedy, and they can do some things you might not get in a live action show. So I think it'll carry over.
So Jeff, that question to you, and then also if you want to wrap up your end of things, we can go from there.
Yeah, it'll absolutely I mean, earlier, right, Ryan, you were talking about Lower Decks, and I think one of the things they figured out was how to better infuse a lot of the comedy into things, and it's great. It's animation. It's one of the gifts that comes with animation, I think, is the ability to kind of weave comedy into a better way, and you're not as reliant necessarily on an actor's timing. And I think that whereas Babylon 5 had some what we've seen so far has had some incredible moments, it's also had a couple that were like, let's see what you're going for there. But then they brought in Jeff Conaway, and then he's nailing it because he's Kaneki, dude. He's the best.
He's Zach.
But yeah,
I was gonna say B5 has that Voyager thing of like it has just you can grab a still from a funny thing and be like, what the out of context B5 Ivanova react hologramming in to see Sheridan as he's smooching a naked lady and her just going, oh boy, and you can really do that stuff in animations. Something like talk about 3D animation. The Dragon Prince is a great example of something that's really mature, grounded, shows us that, and that has great physical comedy. And so I think something like comedy in the animated world doesn't even need to rely on JMS's certain brand of script writing. But yeah, you can let the visuals just be a bit amusing. Heck, even to me, one of the most funny visuals of B5 is in the Long Twilight Struggle when the Narns are fighting a shadow ship. They blow off one of its legs and it bleeds, and another one comes over and grabs it and takes it away. And I'm like, and it always makes me smile, going, "Oh, that's cute. It's cute that they look after each other.
They love each other. They're so cool.
You get stuff like that. Give me a Soul Hunter in animated form. Another thing. Give me that.
I could do without that. But no, I think the Dragon Prince, to your point, also shows how animation can evolve. Right, season 1 Dragon Prince looks a lot different than season 3 and so on. And it's just it's kind of, but it's cool. They experimented, did stuff. There's some really great animation. So I think it's all on Netflix here in the States at least, but some cool stuff. But no, just like Mega, I really appreciate being able to be here and have this conversation. We don't express this enough to our community, so I want to express it to you and by virtue our community. Thanks for being cool on the spoilers, right? Like we get beat up from time to time online for like, dude, it was 30 years ago. You can't expect this. Well, for whatever reason, we have been in a shell and it has worked. Please don't ruin that magic. For us. And so thank all of you for going out of your way to do that for us.
Hear, hear. The one other thing I'll throw out there that somebody said, going back to the animation piece, is things that we forget. JMS got his start partially in animation. Yeah. He was the original showrunner for the Real Ghostbusters. And then when the Real Ghostbusters started to tank, he came back in and fixed it again. So...
Well, let's not forget the magic he brought to She-Ra, right? Yeah. He and Detilio.
She-Ra, He-Man, Yeah.
He-Man was important, but he made the Bible with Larry DiTillio for She-Ra. So She-Ra is his baby. And then they left because they were going to screw with her.
right? And but you can see, I believe you can see seeds of Babylon 5 in that initial Bible.
yeah.
Like you can see a lot of that thinking that led to what happened. I know
Well-
people like She-Ra. Are you serious? Yes. And also,
Oh, yeah, She-Ra's
speaking of
great.
new modern animation, if you haven't watched the new She-Ra, Princesses of Power, it is peak television.
Yeah.
My
So
daughter
yeah.
loves it. Loves it.
See,
Yeah,
I'll,
that's another.
Since we're
That's
getting-
another one where it's like, did you know fascism is the real villain all
Right.
along?
it sounds like
It's like,
JMS.
thank you. I figured it out.
Since we're throwing out old JMS stuff, the one I'll throw out that I grew up on that was very important to me was Captain Power and the Soldiers
Oh,
of the
yeah.
Future.
Yeah,
The fact that I could
um,
shoot at my screen with the jet. Oh, I had so much fun with that movie
Yeah.
show.
That's
yeah,
an
Tickle
interesting one
Trunk
to.
just threw that out in the chat as well.
Don't forget Captain
Yeah.
Power and the Soldiers of the Future. I want a remake of that. Okay, well,
That's an interesting one to revisit for sure, because one of the characters is basically like Proto Ivanova. It's like trying to figure
Yes.
out how to do that character. So that's kind of a fun one if you ever want to revisit it to look back on where JMS started from.
I watched the whole thing about a year ago. The quality is crap, but it holds up story-wise. It's a really good show. Okay, guys. Thanks so much, Mega and Jeff. We're going to get into spoiler territory, so we got to eject you guys out the airlock. Love talking to you two. Please, again, check out Mega Reacts on YouTube and all places he listed earlier. And then, Jeff, check out B5 for the first time. You're just showing off now. You're just showing off.
Very nice.
Yeah, look
Sigh.
at that.
It's okay. I got to build
Brought
my
out a
model
cat
up here one of
earlier.
these
Now
days.
that, come on.
I got all the toys.
Uh-huh. Must be nice to have a... Never mind.
If only it had a button that you could press and then it says, "Oh yes," just like how Jeff.
Yes.
Now, Jeff, can you add to your soundboard the pleasure thresholds line from
Oh
the
gosh,
Gathering,
that'd be a
please?
good. That'd be a good one.
That's a good one, Dad. Drop that one just casually in conversation and see the reaction, because there's also space in between the line. It's like explore your pleasure threshold.
That's when my newbies were like, "What the hell did you get me to start watching?" Because that was the Gathering. And they're like, "What are we signed up for? There's 5 seasons of this?
Yeah.
Oh God!"
Oh, hope the animated movie's also horny, like the show is surprisingly from time to time. You watch Babylon 5 and you're like,
It's a
"Oh yeah, it's a
little
normal size,"
thirsty here
and
and
then
there.
it'll be like horny. And you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh."
Well, again, it's JMS. He's gonna have that.
Well, hey, how about you all take that, and Mega and I will head out, and you can horny as you want.
Well, great.
Okay.
Oh, gee.
We'll explore our pleasure thresholds. Thank
There
you.
you go. Thanks again.
Thanks,
Yep,
guys.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
We'll do it again maybe when we get a trailer or something.
Sounds good.
I gotta wait for him to hit the
Figuring it
button.
out.
He's got to figure out how to use Zoom. There he goes.
Figuring it
Okay. Okay, we're
Give them
now
a trailer
in
so Mega can react.
alert spoiler territory. So if you're in the chat, I think everyone in the chat probably has read everything that's going to happen so far. We don't know too much more, but I did want to kind of dive in a little bit. The one thing I am going to do before we do that is I'm going to, just for folks who may not have actually read it, I'm not going to read the whole thing, I promise, but I am going to go through a little bit on the press release that did come out. First, I'm going to read the synopsis. And the synopsis goes, I got to find it. There we are. Travel across the galaxy with John Sheridan as he unexpectedly finds himself transported through multiple timelines and alternate realities. Ryan, this is where I think the telepath warrior, right, may find its way in here. As he unexpectedly finds himself transported from multiple timelines and alternate realities in a quest to find his way back home. Along the way, he reunites with some familiar faces while discovering cosmic new revelations about the history, purpose, and meaning of the universe. And the other thing I was going to read real quick is the voice actors we have so far. Of course, most of the voice actors, most of the surviving cast are coming back. That includes Bruce Boxleitner, John Sheridan, Claudia Christian, Susan Ivanova, Peter Jurisic, Londo Mollari, Bill Mumy as Lanier, Tracy Scoggins as Elizabeth Lockley.
I'm happy about that one.
Hey, Pat Tallman as Lita Alexander. But then here are the returning characters with different voices. We have Paul Guyot, who is going to do Zathras and Jeffrey Sinclair. We have Anthony Hansen, who's going to do Michael Garibaldi. Mara Junot as reporter and computer voice. Phil Lamar as Dr. Stephen Franklin. Peter Michael as David Sheridan. We're not sure what David it is, but David Sheridan. Andrew Margotto as Jakar, and Rebecca Reedy as Delin. So in one shape or form or another, guys, Delenn, Jakar, Franklin, Zathras, Jeffrey Sinclair, Michael Garibaldi, they're all coming back. So let's get the first spoilery impressions from you all. Ryan, what do you really think about this thing?
Well, when I found out it was an animated movie, I was happy about that. And first, I just saw the image. I didn't get to read the article until much later because for me, I woke up and it's like, oh, this is happening, but I've got to go to work. I'll read about it at lunch. And so when I read the article, I kind of skipped through the plot summary weirdly because I saw immediately they listed cast. So I wanted to see that. And I'm going to be real, my heart did sink a little when I saw that they have recasted voices. And I understand why, but that was my initial impression, especially, you know, for Delenn, because I was also very curious of how they would do a story like this without Delenn in some way, because it was weird in the Lost Tales, the lack of Delenn in there as well. It was weird then, so I thought it was going to be weird now. So my initial impression was just like, oh, a new voice for Zathras? Oh, like, because we've heard about the Babylon 5 cast and crew and how much of like a tightly knit family they are and like the loss of many of them, but I've come to warm to it over time. I've looked up some of these actors. Some of them have credentials. I did chuckle when I saw Phil Lamar because I'm like, of course.
Him and
what famous African-American voice actor do you get? Phil Lamar, of course. But they should have got Phil Morris. He was in Babylon 5 at least, so they could have got him. But no, I'm excited overall. I'm trepidatious because I've experienced Babylon 5 material post season 5, so I know how bad it can be.
Kevin.
Well, David in the chat just was talking about how there could be some misdirection going on, and I had the same thought because John Sheridan's father is David. So I'm just wondering if there's a possibility that he won't go down that road, but you know, they talked, you know, quite a bit about that in, what was it, the second and third seasons about you know, the parallels between, you know, David and Kosh, so his father David. So I don't know, perhaps they will do that, but you know, JMS has been known to throw that misdirection in there before, so we'll see. It's really, you know, if Walter Koenig is not a part of this, it's really going to be a shame that Bester won't be in it. That has me kind of bummed, but I don't have a problem with the recasting. I mean, I don't see being able to do this show without doing that. It just, you know, Scott, one of your original thoughts on this was, you know, some sort of radio drama, radio play, and you know, I know we're all very excited it isn't that, because that probably would have been missing something, especially when they're only using, you know, certain characters that are still have actors that are still around. So I'm very excited for this project. I can't wait to see a trailer and really see the animation, how rich I'm hoping that it'll be, and you know, hearing and seeing it. But I also hope they do just you know, an HBO Max you know, release so that it'll come out right away and we can watch it right away and really be able to dive into it.
Yeah, and to that point about what the project actually was, I think it's extremely important that it isn't just a documentary or a radio drama, because Warner Brothers, again, for the first time in nearly 2 decades, is putting money into the franchise. And not only that, according to JMS, they came to him, not the other way around. They went to him and said, hey, we want to get this franchise, at least something going with it. Would you like to write something for an animated movie? So this tells me that if this goes well, we have a very bright future ahead for what B5 can and will be. And it's not just going to be that 90s show and a couple spinoffs that didn't work. It's going to be something more. And to your point about Bester, I agree, but if we can get multiple episodes of this thing in terms of multiple ones, then there's always a chance we can go back and get more too. I think it's interesting for me, and I threw in the chat too, and if folks aren't reading the chat, throw in your theories and ideas in the chat too, and we'll discuss them. But it's interesting to me how this looks. One, time travel, which we've only had time travel legitimately one time in B5, and it's the same time travel. It's Babylon Squared and World Without End 1 and 2. And then multiverse, which personally I think multiverse is being used too much nowadays, but it allows for a lot of different and interesting storytelling. So one of the things, Blake's not here, but Blake was coming up with this idea, and I'm sure other people have too, but he was the first one who brought it up to me, is what if this entire show takes place while Sheridan is unstuck? And that there's a whole bunch of there where you can just bounce around, and that way it really ties back into the show. And then JMS isn't going back to the well and doing another time travel story. It's just the same one with a different perspective. So that's going to be interesting to me too. What do you guys think it's going to be?
First thing I thought of when I saw it was animated and time travel-y crap is in it. There's a short Star Trek thing, a short trek in Star Trek where it's this animated thing where it's I can't even remember the context. I think it's like these robots or something are traveling through time and they're interacting with different events throughout Star Trek history. And I was like, okay, that's a cute little gimmick. And that was the first thing I thought of. It's like, oh, Sheridan's just going to keep bouncing around different times of the show and even before the show was set. You talk about the exhaustion with multiverse, alternative timelines, all of that. I understand. Many people have raised that as their biggest concern, and I agree. Personally, I haven't been engaging with any of the real multiverse stuff that's in media right now, so I don't have exhaustion from it. So I just look at this going, okay, if JMS is going to bring time travel in, there's a specific purpose for it, because he only brought it in once or twice in the original run of the show, because once you crack open that in your sci-fi thing, you have to really deal with it or else you get nonsense. Star Trek currently keeps bringing in time travel into their shows, and have you noticed that the worst seasons of modern Star Trek are the ones where it's time travel centric? Because time travel inherently, and same with multiverses, if you don't know what the hell you're doing, it's really annoying to watch or engage with. On paper, it should be fun, but there's a lot of rules and a lot of stuff. So when you go back and watch the original run of Babylon 5, you had 3 episodes with time travel, and it was pretty contained. And it gave a great effect to the rest of the show. But as those episodes, I could follow them. There were things like, what's this going to be? But overall, I'm looking forward to this. I look at it as, if it's good, then I have some good Babylon 5 that's worth watching. And if it's bad, I can just add it to the pile of shitty Babylon 5 that already exists. It can just sit right there with Legend of the Rangers and the Lost Tales and so on and so forth.
Yeah. We got a couple things coming in the chat too. Some of it is, let's see here. So Josh says, I think that David Sheridan will be his dad, not his son. Well, that's quite possible. I will say though, and Kevin and I recorded an episode about this that we haven't released yet because I'm lazy and haven't edited it. But we did a conversation about the original 5-year plan for Babylon 5 back when it was first kind of put together. And the son, David, played a lot more of a role in what was going to happen. And I think that's one of the characters that really has been untapped. And I think, I don't want to, assume what JMS thinks, but if I had a character that I written about back in the early 90s and I have never been able to use and never been able to show, except for mentioning it off screen a couple times, I can see him going and trying to fill in some gaps there. So I personally think it's going to be David, the son, but we'll see. It could be the dad. Who knows? Let's see what else we got going here. David says, if people are having a problem with the new voices for the film, how are they going to cope with the reboot? You know what? The worst fans are fans.
Yeah.
I mean, most people I've seen and I'm on a whole bunch of communities, most people are excited about this. There are a few people who are like, oh, it's animated, or, oh, it's recasting. But you know what? I'm with Ryan too. If it's great, I'm going to enjoy it. If it's not great, I still have 5 seasons of good Babylon 5. So I'm okay either way. Oh, let's see.
Yeah. I did find it interesting when they listed off the cast, what ones were there. I don't know if you guys saw it, but at least someone, whoever it is that runs Jason Carter's Facebook account,
I think it's his
made
wife.
it pretty clear that they weren't even they didn't even get talked to about it. JMS and everyone keeps mentioning like we talked to all the cast that's around, not Jason Carter apparently. So I don't know what that means, but I think many people would like us to at least raise that as something because he's a beloved cast member and character in the show.
Yeah.
He's one of the ones who's still around, and I'm sure many people, when they hear time travel story, would like to see as many of the characters as possible, especially the ones who the actors are still alive, even if their characters in the show eventually do meet a certain fate. So I imagine there are Marcus people out there saying, well, where's Marcus? Why isn't Jason Carter in this cast? And I don't know either. And it doesn't seem like he knows either. And I think that's kind of a bummer. And I think it's kind of a bummer that JMS and the other cast keep talking about this project as like, yeah, everyone talked about it and we're all on board. And it seems like, well, no, not everyone talked about it. There's one person in particular that didn't get to talk about it. And I think that does add a little, I mean, if he's not needed in the story, like if he's not needed, that's fine. But I do feel a little bit strange about it. And maybe this is all smoke screens, right? Like maybe this is some elaborate thing to make us think that he's not in it and then we're surprised that he's in it. Maybe that's the case, but I'm just saying this initial reaction now. That was kind of one of the things where I'm like, oh, no Jason Carter. I'm a bit surprised.
The other
name
one
that was
Kevin, go ahead. You were going to say the same thing I was. Go for it.
the other name that's kind of obviously missing from that group is recast of the Veer character, which would really bum me out if he wasn't part of it. So I'm going to hope that they just didn't, in that Hollywood Reporter piece, didn't list absolutely everything, and that there may be some surprises coming. But as a big fan of the character Marcus, it'll be a real blow to the project if that character isn't involved in some way, because if they're involving Commander Sinclair and certain others that do meet a fate, like you said, Ryan, there's definitely ways to bring it into the story if you feel strongly enough about it. But it'd be a real shame if Marcus isn't in there. I mean, he's definitely one of my favorite characters.
I think they're obviously not going to tell us everything, but if they are, what really throw me off is they tell us Zathras and David are in it, but which are weird characters to throw at us. But we don't hear if there's a Veer, a Zach, Bester, or even Kosh or Lorian. People that would make sense to be there in a time travel weird story. Or I know many people bring up like, well, Walter Koenig's older now. He may not be interested. He recently just did voice work in Star Trek Picard, and I saw him in a live stream just like a week or two ago, talking very positively about that experience and actually lamenting the fact they didn't bring him in to do a physical appearance. Like he was like, I wanted to be on camera, and he talked about Babylon 5. Like he's still passionate about Babylon 5. He's still with it. So I hope that Bester is something that maybe it's a surprise, but at the same time, Walter Koenig's a name. Like he's a big name. And if you're making a press thing, you would imagine they would put him in there if he's actually involved. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be a little secret like with Star Trek Picard when they brought him in to do a little bit of a voice thing. But I see, and Lockley, I was actually happy to see Lockley there in the cast, Tracy Scoggins. I know not everyone's a big Lockley head, but that's another thing about the B5 community that makes me weirded out by Jason Carter is I've always liked how this cast and crew still after all this time seem to get on pretty well. Where Lockley was like a last second addition, like she's here for the final season, but even after that they keep bringing her character in, like, hey, here she is in Crusade, here she is in The Lost Tales. Tracy Scoggins, I've always respected her for coming into this final season of a show and playing it like as passionately as everybody else. So I'm actually very happy to see that she's still involved in the world of B5 and that she's still going to be a player in some small or big way, because I know, like, especially with season 5 or any show that brings in people in the last minute, fans don't usually react that strong, like that positively to them. But I think with her just like consistently still appearing after, people have warmed up to Lockley a lot more over the years. I think because she turns up in projects after season 5, I think people are far more warm to the character and that performance.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty clear from some of the stuff that I've read that they really enjoyed working with Tracy Scoggins. So I think that plays a part. But I haven't seen anything about anything that would lead me to believe that they couldn't work with Jason Carter. But it's unfortunate that he's going through a rough time, because his portrayal, especially at the end of season 4, is just it's heartbreaking, but it's wonderful television.
Oh yeah,
and we're getting some stuff in the chat too about Lockley. I also I think Lockley is the strongest thing about season 5, except for like the last 3 episodes, but that's a whole nother thing. And look, you got Lockley and you got Byron. So which one are you going to take? I'll take Lockley.
Verini.
Oh,
just saying.
Sure. But along with
I love him. He's one of my favorite characters in the show. Love Verini. Oh, freak.
I feel
so sad for him.
One of the things that's was somebody brought up in here, I think it was Tim. I just had it pulled up, and I'll pull it up again if I can find it, Tim. Yeah, I would love to see Lockley and Ivanova together. I would love to see that, because obviously in the meta, Lockley is the replacement Ivanova, which she's not, and that character is completely different. She didn't even get the same storylines, because for one, Lita got most of the Ivanova storylines for season 5, so it's not like Lockley just replaced Claudia Christian. I would love to see those two interact. I think it'd be fun to watch. There's also some debate on here, and this is a discussion, I think, for more detailed when we're not just talking about the animated movie, but there's some discussion about, is Lockley a traitor? Because she was supporting Clark, and I'm pointing out she didn't support Clark. She supported Earth. And then the pushback is, well, what about illegal orders? And I'm like, okay, well, then you're just going to throw out the entire Earth Force military, because they all did. But whatever, cool. It's okay, Steven. You can be wrong. It's okay. Steven did help himself out by saying we need to have a return of Rebu and Zudi. So as long as we get Rebu and Zudi back, we're good.
No Talia either. I know some people out there are wondering. Andrea Thompson, she's still active, like she's still out there. She still engages with the fans and the community and the cast and stuff. Yeah. Well, I know many people look at Talia as like, let's be real, as fans, Talia, us three aren't the hugest Talia fans, but she ends in such a way where you go, okay, we're going to follow through on this, and we never do, really. Yeah. We get lines of dialogue, but we don't get a proper follow through. Like, honestly, if you had to put a gun against my head and say, like, what's a thing from Babylon 5 you would have liked wrapped up in some way, Talia is one of mine, because I just wanted to feel like she meant more than just, she became evil and then left.
Well,
yeah, I've said stuff like that on our podcast about how she didn't have enough to do, she didn't get any decent writing, or hardly any decent writing, until she decided to leave. And that's really unfortunate, because, the actress, did a good job with what she had, but, and that doesn't mean screen time, because it's hard with an ensemble cast, unless you're one of a main group, to get lots of screen time. But that doesn't mean that you don't get anything to really sink your teeth into as an actor. And she really hardly did in 2 years.
The other one,
she's a great actress. Like, she's really good. Like, if you've ever seen NYPD Blue or that episode of Quantum Leap she's in, and other roles, she's really good. B5 just wasted her, which is something you don't say a lot about the actors, or the main cast actors in B5. They usually gave them a lot to work with, even in small roles. Like, Jeff Conaway's great as Zach, right? He starts out small, but we give him more. But they had her, and she's just sitting there doing nothing. Like, we just mentioned Lockley. I saw some people in the comments talk about, like, one of the reasons Lockley is an interesting character is because of Tracy Scoggins' performance. She's very striking in it from the get-go. But Talia, she just kind of stands around, and then like near the end she gets good stuff to do, but it's like, I would like to see her. But if we don't, I'm not too surprised, because I know it seems like JMS is very much like, Talia's gone.
Yeah. Same with Kefir, which David just said, or Robert just said in the chat. I really wish we got more stuff with Kefir, and he says, "No, I'm just kidding." But I want to point out the press release did say, and this means absolutely nothing, but the press release says the voice cast includes. So it doesn't mean we're not going to get other folks. So like I think we'll probably have Veer in there. It's just he's not listed. I don't think you can have all of these guys and not have Veer. But Movie Science Review says the right thing. JMS is a story guy. I think he'll pull in characters as the story requires. So if the story needs that person, they'll be in it. If the story doesn't need that person, they won't be in it. The one thing I would love to see, and I don't think I'm going to, but my character who I feel didn't get the end that they should have got is Lanier. And I will get into more detail on that when we get to season 5. I think Lanier's arc, it's not that where Lanier took the arc isn't where it probably should have gone, but I hate that it ended right there. I wanted some conclusion to Lanier, not him being a coward who runs away. Now I do know in the I do know in the Psycor books that he goes with Lita and blows up Psycor and dies that way. But I want to see Lanier have a good ending. And with Bill Mumy on the cast, that's a possibility, but I bet you that's not what's going to happen. But you know, again, I could hope.
Oh yeah.
I
joked with our listeners. This is a really cruel yet funny way for JMS to make Bill Mumy play lovelorn Lanier again. Long play. This is like JMS is like, "Hey Bill, you thought we were done screwing you over with Lanier? We've only just begun, baby." Man. Look, I have mixed feelings on Lanier in general as a character because of that season ending. Personally, I'm fine with the way it ended physically for him. What annoyed me more was the conversation afterwards where Delen's like, "Oh, forgive him, John." And it's like, that's what annoys me more rather than him running away. That's fine to me, but yeah, Lanier, oh boy. No Drawl. Give me Drawl again. Give me some more Drawl. We still have John Shook out there. He can do the voice. He can do all of the big acting. Make Drawl matter.
So, what an amazing voice he's got.
Jacob's got a question. Yeah. And it kind of goes into one of the things we haven't really talked about in the press release, and that is Sheridan's going to learn some secrets about the universe in the past. So Jacob asks, I have a question. Do you think they will get into more of why the Shadows and Vorlons stopped working together? For one, did the Vorlons and Shadows ever really work together? But to that point, I think what he's getting at is, are we going to see more of the history of the first ones and the Shadows and how that all started? And that's a possibility. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, are the aliens from third space going to come into it, guys? Are they going to finally break through and get us all?
Every time I think of third space now, I think of Picard season 1 with the tentacle hands. Same idea.
Yeah. Same idea. Yeah, but both done weirdly.
It would be cool to learn more about the origins of the Great Machine. I think that's probably something that GMS would love to dive into.
Well, he flat out said when he was doing the TNT movies that one of his ideas was a story about the Great Machine. He just never got to it. So that's been rolling around that guy's head for 20 years. So quite possible.
But yeah, first one stuff. I'm not. I mean, okay. In all fairness, when I heard about the time travel stuff, my first thought was, oh, Valen / Sinclair and Zathras have a machine that travels through time. They're going to need to enlist some people. Some event around Babylon 4 is going to make time travel happen. I can understand the whole point of view of like, oh, Sheridan's become unstuck in time and so he's flicking around because that happened already. But a part of me was like, well, maybe they'll involve that side of it a bit more in a different way. I don't know how, but that was my first thing when I was like, oh, time travel. Oh, that means Sinclair and Zathras will be the ones that initiated and they need something solved. And it's only up to our boy Sheridan to figure it out. But he's a dum-dum and gets lost in time because he always gets lost in time because, you know, he's just such a scamp. But I hope that we will see the past. I know many people want to see the future of things, but I already have Deconstruction of Falling Stars.
I love that episode.
And I also have the Lost Tales.
I don't love those episodes.
But I'd love to see the past. I'd love to see, like the wars from years ago with the Shadows and the Vorlons. I can see the reason why people are keen on like what happened back then, because it is ambiguous enough where you can just, in the context of the original show, you understand. Oh, they just ideologically didn't agree, and so they became what they became. Oh, another interesting thing about this, right, is obviously with the remaining cast that we do have involved in it. I did think like, okay, are we going to start with like, when are we going to start the adventure? Is this going to be like something? Because I'm thinking in a movie sense, you want to start it in a normal location. You're not just going to start it midway through stealing Babylon 4. You're going to start it like in a normal place, and like where in the timeline would that be, right? Like where would you do it? And again, because Lockley's mentioned, I keep being like, well, is it going to be in season 5 or just after season 5? And for some reason, they have to travel back in time. I don't know, because also, leaders there and all of this is there. Like a lot of them were people who existed in season 5, or their characters are still alive.
Yeah.
In season 5.
Yeah.
Onwards.
That's true. Well, and JMS has said that you can come, and I'm not going to let my newbies do this, but JMS has said you can come into this cold and understand the story. So not only are we just going to drop in somewhere, he's going to have to explain quickly what this show is, at least a little bit. Tim says, I think the setting has to take place after Sleeping in Light. Otherwise, there needs to be some sort of amnesia effect so people don't remember about this movie. I mean, with Sheridan involved, I don't think it happens after Sleeping in Light. I think, again, I don't know, but I think JMS is done with the Sheridan story after Sleeping in Light. I don't see him going back after Sheridan's crossed over and saying, let's bring him back. So I'm still going to stick with the idea that this happens in season 3, War Without End. And that's where it starts. That's my thought. And then I think you do bounce into season 5. I think you bounce into season 2. I think you bounce back 10,000 years. I mean, that's where I think this is going. But we'll see. I have no idea. 2001
style.
As long as they have the 2010 spacesuit, we're fine, right?
Spacesuit again.
Yeah, it's that blue one.
I want to see what Zathras looks like as an animated character, because he already looks like a little cartoony guy. So I want to see that. Just randomly, because we mentioned season 5, the dreaded Byron. A thing that is interesting about Byron is the actor Robin Atkin Downes is a very beloved and famous voice actor.
Yes.
And he's still very much engaged with the Babylon 5 community. He does conventions. He tweets out to people all the time. Him and JMS still seem pretty buddy. And I think it would be such a wasted opportunity not to have him do some voice work as random characters in it, considering his pedigree as a voice actor. And he's still ongoing relationship with this franchise, even though many of us don't like Byron. He's often labeled as the worst character. I always just want to shout out like Robin Atkin Downes, the guy himself, the actor. Good on him for still talking to B5 people out there, considering that we treat the character in ways him like a piece of shit. A lot of the time people make fun of Byron in ways that are making fun of the actor too for what he looks like with the hair and stuff, which he still has. Like he still has the long blonde hair.
We're all just jealous that he has that hair is what it comes down to. Yeah,
he's not cutting it.
Jacob, to that point, says Byron should be the main villain looking for more hairspray. That's...
No, it's Bester looking for a new wig. And so he goes to Byron because Byron has all the hair care products and everything. He's like, hey, dude, can you supply me with some wigs? And Byron just shrugs like, no, I can't do that. I'm all natural.
Tickle Trunk says, Byron's far from the worst character. There's much worse. Yeah.
No.
That's true.
Who?
Yeah.
He
Go
was
ahead and
the
tell
worst
us in the
character
chat.
that stuck around the longest.
Rapid fire. Tell us in the chat who is the worst character from Babylon 5, and why should they be back in the animated movie?
He wasn't a character.
Kefir was a
By
cardboard
design.
cutout.
Oh, one of the things note down is the music. The music. JMS has said that the guy who does the music in
Chris
B5
Frank.
is retired. So
Yep.
yeah, Christopher Frank. He is retired. He doesn't do the music. So we will have, I imagine, different music for Babylon 5, which is going to be an interesting thing in itself because because that's a key element of the show. Many may take it for granted, but it is something that is a character in itself. It gives B5 its flavor. And I know some people like the Stuart Copeland music in The Gathering. I know there's some people who rep that, but look at The Gathering with the original music there. It sounded so different to what we got. And so I don't know in that regard, like, I don't know what that will be like, but I just wanted to raise that because music's also a very important thing in B5, and with an animated project, that's something that still has to carry over too.
Can we all just agree that as long as it's not the Crusade synth music, we'll be okay?
Yeah.
Can we all get behind that? My God.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
That was
And,
another
sadly, the guy who did the music for Crusade is also no longer with us.
Yeah.
That's, a sad thing too. And that was like the only music he ever really did proper. But, I understand for sure. But it would be bold if it was the Crusade music.
JMS is like, I will see it and I will raise you. So we're getting some stuff in the chat about the worst characters ever. One, I have to yell at somebody because, for one, it's our namesake. But movie science says the Freddy Krueger actor, you, sir, no movie science, no. Gray 17 is Missing is a wonderful episode, and Robert England is amazing.
He's very good.
I will say, I was
not in that episode.
Well,
I was hoping that he'd be on here not Robert England. That'd be cool, but I was hoping that Jiffer would be on here because him and I are looking at doing a V retrospective side project, and Robert England is definitely a member of the V series. So,
same with Deathwalker, Sarah Douglas.
Oh yeah.
I don't know who my least favorite character in B5 is. Like the worst. I mean, I think I've grown to not even hate Byron anymore. Just look at it as the script is the problem there. But boy, I mean, I joked before, but it has to be Kefir, right? Like, he's such a waste of space. There's just nothing to the guy. Like, at least with Byron, I could say what the point was. Like, I'm like, oh, I can see what they were going for. I understand what they were doing, but Kefir is just there to... The only good episode he had was Gropos, which is, by design, Larry DiTilio said, I want to try and give this character something. And then he gave up. He actually said, I gave up halfway through writing the script.
I'm seeing some hate for Jinxo. Leave Jinxo alone. I love Jinxo.
Oh, imagine if they brought him back. He's like, Sheridan, I can bring you back to life.
He's looking for work. I mean, the guy wants to come to cons. I'm working on that still. This is not the worst character, but somebody mentioned another character that I agree I would love to see in the movie or a movie. Good old Hammy Galen. I want some Galen action in my animated movie. That's the best thing that came out of Crusade was Galen.
Technomage.
Yep. Let's see here. Honorable mention to Garibaldi's niece. I think we have a winner. Drunk again, Uncle Mike? Drunk again?
Oh no, I think we're really not giving enough credit to Elisa Belden, the young teenage telepath girl Talia and Ivanova were fighting over. Talking about actors, that's a bad performance, but the character is also just like, I'm a child. I'm a child.
I don't know what to do. Tell me about Minbar.
Oh, thank you, Josh, for bringing this up. Wouldn't it be great if Lise came back? Lise Edgar's the most fucking defined character in Babylon 5. Guys, you got to hold me back. I know I talk too much, but I cannot hold back about all of the nuances of Lise. Oh, my God,
though?
Lise.
Say what you will about Eggers, but she's the one recurring character that showed up in season 1 and the same actor showed up in season 5. We couldn't even get that with Sheridan's wife in season 2 and season 4.
Oh, Lisa. Oh, boy. What a... she knows what she wants. She likes shopping. She needs to have a child, and she needs to marry rich.
Man.
Girl boss. Where's Lise talking to the rest of the characters? We need... Oh, you know what? The animated movie? Give me Lise. Wouldn't that be real bold?
So Deanna says the guy from Eyes who had out for Sinclair. Oh no, man, he was fun. He hammed it up all the time.
I love that
actor.
episode.
Do you know how I got this scar?
That actor is the son of George Martin, the producers for
Really?
the Beatles. Yes, and he's in real life. Gregory Martin is a charlatan scam artist who does weird psychic horoscopy bullshit stuff, and he charges you a lot for a bunch of nonsense. So, Oh yeah, bring Jeffrey Combs back. That would be.
Oh yes.
That would be, get him to do a freaky little role.
Yes.
But
okay, guys. I think Ryan, you got something you were going to add there.
Oh no! Other than that, with the animated movie, I'm just excited to see what it looks like. I hope it looks good. I worry what the aliens will look like in animation, like what Jakar will look like animated, because that's like a pretty complex makeup design in live action. A lot of spots, a lot of stuff going on. A lot of bumps and ridges. I wonder what they'll look like in 3D animation. Londo with the hair and everything obviously will be exciting because he's such a big character. But yeah, Lanier, Delenn, all of that. I wonder what they'll look like in this animated form.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up here, guys. We'll actually make one of these less than an hour and a half, which I think is impressive. So we'll go around the horn one more time, and anything you want to add, and then obviously Ryan too, you can plug your stuff as well. So Kevin, you first. What do you want to finish up with?
Oh, I just can't wait to see a trailer. So I hope that's coming soon because I'm real excited to dive in once we have a little bit more information at hand about how this is going to be and the animation style they're going to use, and maybe have some information about how they're going to release it. But it is so exciting to have new Babylon 5 content that is only a couple of months away. And I know there's quite a few people who are bummed about may not be able to watch it for a while, but I can't wait. And I know that's selfish, but it is going to be such a thrill to see something new from this universe that we know that JMS is going to be very protective of his intellectual property. So it's really going to be something to see.
Ryan.
So one of the contentious points I've seen from a vocal group online, which is a stupid point, but one nonetheless, is, oh no, I don't want this Babylon 5 animated project to be about modern day stuff. I don't want it to be woke or whatever the term is. What that really brings to mind for me is I do hope that this animated movie does have like a good message and things it's exploring. It mentions that he's going to discover the meaning of the universe and very heady ideas and themes. I do want it to be something of substance rather than just a nice little way to have the cast have a reunion and for us to remember this, because that's also a concern when you hear it's a time travel story where we can ping pong around things. I can stand that, but as long as we get what we love about B5, which is through that JMS writing of having a statement to be made, having a statement about humanity, about society, about faith, about whatever the topic may be, that's the thing that I really want, as well as somebody who loves science fiction, as somebody who has been very disappointed in a lot of the modern sci-fi on television, where a good majority of them really lack in exploring their themes. That's what I want, is something that does that. Something that where I walk away from licking my lips going, that was good sci-fi. Like, that's what I'm here for. It's not just spaceship battles, and it's not just remember this. It's not just, Zathras said Zathras. I want to walk away from it having felt something and being left thinking about things as well.
Ryan, tell them where they can find you.
We are Yum Yum Podcast. We are available on all of the sites, all of the podcasting places. We're on YouTube as well. Social media, just look up Yum Yum Pod or Yum Yum Podcast. We release weekly discussions on Babylon 5. My wife and I are rewatching the series. And as I stated at the very top, in a couple of weeks from now, we're going to be releasing our discussions on Space Above and Beyond, a series that is, if anything, needs a reboot.
Hell yes.
If anything deserved a second chance of life, that's the show that really deserved it. Don't get me wrong, I love B5, but hey, it got to finish. Space Above and Beyond. And that's another thing. I hope with this type of thing, and if they keep doing very well, it means like some of these other shows that may not have got the chance to shine maybe get to. I know that's maybe daydreaming on my part, but at the same time, if you told teenage Ryan that we would get more Babylon 5 or even a remastered version, I would have said that's a dream as well. So yeah, we're available. Yum Yum Podcast.
So before I close out too, David, I think, has cracked the code, and this is what it's going to be about. David says, I'm hoping for all the main characters' favorite Swedish meatball recipes. And then he continues, and Sheridan's secret of the universe is why those are everywhere. Regardless of species, there is a Swedish meatball recipe. So that's, I think, what it is.
Have you ever heard the conspiracy theory about the Swedish meatballs? Why
no, but now I'm going to, so tell me, because I need to know.
I've heard this always. And if anyone in the comments can actually give me a source, I've always heard people say, it's a fact that Sinclair's favorite food was Swedish meatballs. So when he traveled back in time and he's Jesusing around the universe, he introduced Swedish meatballs to everyone. But I've never, ever been able to find any proof within the show or the books or anything that Sinclair even engages with Swedish meatballs. Every time he's in the show, he's eating alien food like blue grapes and stuff. I've always heard of this, and I've never been able to find a source for this. I love the idea, but I don't back it up because I want some proof of this. I always hear about it. I've read even the Babylon 5 cookbook, which has a whole thing about the Swedish meatballs and how even the chef at Babylon 5's on Babylon 5 talks about all these conspiracy theories about the Swedish meatballs, but he never brings up the Sinclair thing. So I just putting that out there. I've always heard this, but I never heard anyone back it up.
We do have a copy of the Babylon 5 cookbook in the Gray 17 library, and I'm still trying to get Blake to do more cooking. He did one. I'm trying to get him to do more. Here's you go. Josh says it's not Sinclair. It was Swedish meatballs are a delicacy of the Vorlons, and since they seeded the galaxy, that's where it happened. All right. Well, so we had Ryan from Yum Yum, Kevin, I, and Jessi are from Gray 17. Links are down below. I will also put links down below for Babylon 5 for the first time. Thank you to Jeff for coming out. Mega Reacts, we'll put links in there for Mega. And then the folks who actually were intending to be here but couldn't for one reason or another, we had the Babylon Project, Who Are You podcast, Gray Sector podcast. We'll put all of those links down below too, and hopefully we'll get them all together when we maybe talk about a trailer in a month, see what happens there, or maybe just wait to see when the show comes out. We'll have a good conversation that way. But for me, I'm extremely excited. When we started this thing, Kevin, Blake, and I, and the rest of the team started this thing about a year ago now. Our goal was to talk about a 90s TV show, and maybe there would be some kind of reboot, maybe, but who knows. No one thought, hey, in the middle of it, when we're talking about season 3, we're going to review a brand new B5 movie. My goodness. So I don't care. It can be about Swedish meatballs. It can be about the dawn of the universe. I don't care. I'm going to review it. I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm so glad that we are in a place right now after 18 years since The Lost Tales where I can say in about 2 months, roughly, we're going to have a brand new B5 movie to talk about. And I am so excited. And thank you, Ryan and Kevin, for joining us. And thank you to Jeff, Mega, Jessi for being with us earlier, and to everybody else on the chat. You guys have been amazing. It's always fun to have this live stuff. We can interact with you all. You're all talking about Swedish meatballs now. I'm kind of hungry, so it's great. The shadows are allergic. That's a key too. We know they're allergic to telepaths, but now they're allergic to lingonberries as well. Thank you. See, we need to make Mr. Tickle Trunk, even though he's got some bad calls about Star Trek, we got to make him our new admin for the chat because he did it before I did. Hit that like button, please, 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 and go to Yum Yum and all the rest and hit subscribe. Follow all these podcasts. That's the great thing. Ryan, you started out talking about this. We're in an age now where we got a whole bunch of different ways you can enjoy this show. If you enjoy recaps, you've got Yum Yum. If you enjoy people watching for the first time, you got B5 for the first time and us. You've got, if you like comedy, Gray Sector's your thing. There's so many things out there you can check out. So please give all of those people, don't, Tickle's like, don't mod me. Don't you dare. Now I'm tempted. But please check out these other shows. It's so great that we have so much content coming out about B5 that it's fun to watch. So thanks everybody very much. We will be back again, I am sure. And hopefully we'll have some more to talk about both the animated movie and also about the reboot. So have a good one, folks, and we will talk later. And yes, Tickle Trunk is my new